What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JBsports back again with another one. Gervonta Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia is traveling down the same road as Errol Spence Jr. versus Terrence Crawford. What I mean by negotiations dragging on, you got Stephen Espinosa out here saying that hopefully the fight will get done, trying to remain positive, just like he was doing in the whole Spence versus Crawford negotiations. But we all know that the end result's going to be the same. Whether it be in the Crawford or Spence negotiation, Crawford didn't want to take the fight without getting up front money. Well, we got two fighters fighting on two different platforms. You have Davis fights exclusively on Showtime, and Ryan Garcia is signed with Golden Boy, who has an exclusive deal with DAZN. So the negotiations have been dragging on for months now. And it seems to me that this fight's not going to happen. Showtime is not going to budge on the fact that they believe that they don't need DAZN involved in this fight. And they're not going to let DAZN be involved in this fight. And if it means that the fight falls apart, then so be it. And that's where we're at here today. Now, yesterday, Gervonta got on his Twitter and said that he's coming back in January in Washington, D.C. So pretty much, that means that Ryan Garcia is not part of the equation, because if he's fighting Ryan Garcia, you can best believe that fight going to be on the West Coast. It's going to be either in Las Vegas or L.A. Maybe an outside possibility they put that fight in Atlanta, but damn sure Ryan Garcia ain't finna go fight Gervonta Tank Davis in his backyard, as he's very, 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 very close, if you go by what he said on his Twitter, to finalizing a fight for January in Washington, D.C. Now, the arena that I'm hearing that will host the fight is Capital One Arena. That's the home of the Washington Wizards. You know, they'll be able to do a good gate there, depending on the opponent, and I'll get to that later from the opponents that I'm hearing that he could possibly face. But January 7th is the date I'm hearing. January 7th is the date I'm hearing. The PBC has two dates reserved for January 7th and January 28th. The 28th already has a fight lined up for that date. That'll be Jermell Charlo taking on Tim Tszyu. And Gervonta Tank Davis will be headlining his own card on January 7th near his hometown of Washington, D.C. And again, the arena that I'm hearing is Capital One Arena, the home of the Washington Wizards. Now, it's an outside chance, a slim chance, but an outside chance that he could be fighting at the MGM National Harbor, at their arena called The Theater. He could be fighting there, but I doubt it. That arena only holds 3,000, so I don't think they have that fight there. If he's fighting there, then he's basically fighting a nondescript fighter, man. But I do think he's going to fight a decent name. Now, from what I'm hearing, it's going to basically boil down to three fighters. Really, two fighters. Now, Jezreel Corrales is ranked in the top 10 of the WBA. He's a PBC fighter, but he's had visa issues. He's supposed to fight September 4th on the undercard of Andy Ruiz versus Luis Ortiz. He couldn't get over here to the U.S. because he had visa issues. So until that issue is cleared up, I'm going to kind of cancel him out as far as a likely opponent for Gervonta Tank Davis. That leaves two guys that fighting at 130 pounds that will require them to move up to take on Tank Davis. And that is Hector Garcia, who is the WBA super featherweight champion, or the guy that he beat, not in his last fight, but the fight before his last fight, in an upset when he defeated the previously undefeated Chris Colbert, aka Prime Chicken. So he'll be fighting one of those two guys, is from what I'm hearing. You know, by processes of elimination and through my source, I'm thinking it's going to be one of those two guys. Now, if Jezreel Corrales can clear up his visa issue, then he could be likely in the mix too, man. But for right now, I think it's going to come down to Hector Garcia, WBA super featherweight champion, or the guy that he defeated, Chris Colbert. Now, Chris Colbert was a guy that, before he lost to Hector Garcia, was one of the top young rising fighters under the PBC. And a lot of people was talking about a potential matchup with Gervonta Tank Davis versus Chris Colbert. But Colbert's star has faded, and he was actually in line to take on another young gun coming up in the lightweight rank. He was going to move up and fight Frank Martin, but his promoter, Errol Spence, said that he was unable to make that fight because Colbert was out of shape. So Colbert's got to get serious about it. I think he was one of those guys that was undefeated, and he was headlining fights, and I think he got bigger than his britches. You know, he started drinking the Kool-Aid, and he fought Hector Garcia, and he got beat down in that fight. He got beat down in that fight, got dominated in that fight, and he got a cold dose of reality. But it don't seem like he learned his lesson because he ain't been in the gym. And according to Errol Spence Jr., he pretty much took himself out of the fight with him not being in shape for the Frank Martin fight. And he's fighting in the special edition feature for December 17th on Showtime. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Now, I think Hector Garcia is the more deserving fight, but the bigger name is Chris Colbert. So it remains to be seen. Does Al Heyman say, okay, Chris Colbert, he's not dedicated, so we're going to go and put him in there. We're going to feed him to the shark known as Gervonta Tank Davis. And either he's going to step up to the plate knowing that he's fighting a dangerous top-level fighter, or he's going to continue down this road, and it's a road that is going to end up leading to his career not living up to what we thought it was going to be, and we just going to go and send him over there to Davis and get beat. And then he's basically going to be one of those fighters that, you know, is going to be still getting fights because he does have a name, but he's not going to be looked upon like he was before as one of the rising young guys that would be in those big fights. You know, they were mentioning Chris Colbert with Shakur Stevenson and Gervonta Davis. He was mentioned with all those guys at one time. Devin Haney and all those guys, Ryan Garcia, but it's obvious that he's a step below. He's not even good as Hector Garcia. Hector Garcia is a guy that's very, very, very underrated. And he impressed me not only in the Chris Colbert fight, but in his last fight, he dominated a very good fighter. So that would be an interesting matchup, man. He's a very skilled Latino fighter. He's not that just come forward, take 2 punches, throw 3 punches type of fighter. He's a very solid fighter. You know, he goes into that shoulder roll Mayweather style of defense. I seen him do that in his last fight. He's got a good jab. He knows how to control distance. He goes to the body well, and he can come forward and press the issue and be that aggressive, come forward pressure type of fighter. So I think that'll be a good test for Gervonta Tank Davis. He'll be moving up in weight from 130 to 135, but Gervonta is not a big 135 pounder. He's just, you know, a guy that has skills, and skills pays the bills, which allows him to move up from 130 to 135, even up to 140 when he defeated Mario Barrios, who was basically a junior middleweight on fight night. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Follow me on Facebook, Gerard.Briscoe.3551. Before I holler, let me say this about Gervonta Tank Davis. His resume is solid. A lot of people say he got a weak resume, say his resume is thinner than synthetic oil. I don't subscribe to that line of thinking. I believe he has a solid resume. And when you look closely at his resume, he beat Jose Pedraza, a former 2-time world champion. And he fought him early in his career. It was one of those fights where a lot of people thought he was going to lose going into that fight. A lot of people thought that Mayweather promotion was setting him up to fail. You know what I'm saying? And he improved and showed that he was one of the top young fighters on the rise. And he also beat, who else he beat? You know, he's beaten, last fight he beat Rolly Romero. He's defeated Mario Barrios. And he's beaten Leo Santa Cruz. Leo Santa Cruz is a Hall of Fame fighter. When his career's over, multi-division world champion, only lost to Gervonta Tank Davis and Carl Frampton, and he avenged the Carl Frampton loss. He's definitely, no doubt about it, Hall of Famer. So he has some good names on his resume. His resume, in my opinion, stacks right up there with Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, Ryan Garcia. His resume stacks right up there with those guys. Now, he don't have the hardware to support that like a Devin Haney, who's undisputed, but Devin Haney was able to beat George Kambosos, who I look at as an overachiever. He's a guy that's not very talented, but gets the most out of his ability. And he was able to catch Teofimo Lopez slipping, drinking the Kool-Aid, and he was able to defeat an unfocused, stayed at that weight too long, Teofimo Lopez. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Follow me on Facebook, Gerard.Briscoe.3551. Like, share, and subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend. And I holla.